President Trump touching down at the NATO summit in Turkey. That's a country, Dana. Floating the sale of F-35 fighter jets to our Turkish ally while blasting the rest of the alliance for not chipping in on Iran.
We didn't need any help at all. And in a way, I was testing people. I was testing to see whether or not they'd be there, because I've long said that we helped them, but I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. And Italy turned us down, and Germany turned us down, and France turned us down. And it's okay. But, you know, why are we spending hundreds of billions of dollars and they're not there for us? We've always been there for them.
Interesting point. You know, Brian, you're in for Jesse Waters, who's also in Turkey right now, the #1 destination for follicle procedures. So we wish him the best. I hope he gets the same model you got.
Thank you.
Holding up
it's
nicely.
Expensive. Yeah, I got the silver plan.
You can get pulled underwater. Right?
Yes, I can.
Yes, you can. Do you think Trump is fair in when he's criticizing NATO about not backing us?
Well, number one, he was haranguing them in the first term to spend more than they are. You know, he wanted to get them to 2%. Now they're at close to 5%. They all accept Spain, who should be kicked out of NATO as far as I'm concerned. Not letting us use our bases was a bridge too far. You don't want to participate in the Iran war because you weren't given a heads up. Well, the thing called surprise was necessary. After getting over the initial hurt, you should have kicked in and said, how can I help? This is what we got. This is what we can do. And if you had a problem, you keep it behind closed doors. Instead, they went publicly to say, not my war. This is illegal. You're on your own, which is unbelievably bold considering they were upset that we weren't giving more money to Ukraine. So they're not even playing it smart. Then this story emerges where France was actually meeting with our allies about getting into a shooting war with us over Greenland. Really? Turkey and Denmark against us over Greenland. Are you kidding me? So you're actually going to do that? Now they're in the process of divesting from our tech firms. So if anyone's talking about things working against NATO, I think it's more the European Union and the European members seem to be working against President Trump. What I was hoped they could do is say, hey, you need some more patriots into Ukraine. We could use some of your help over in Iran when it comes to sweepers and when it comes to escorts to the Strait of Hormuz. How about that? Or of a show of unity. But instead, it seems to be behind closed doors. We seem to be pretty divided.
What say you, Kennedy?
I don't trust Turkey. I never have. And until the United States acknowledges the Armenian genocide, I'm always going to have a problem with that regime. The one good thing about Turkey, because the Middle East is a crap show, and that is a very nice way of saying it. Sometimes Greg says the S word around this table, and I won't do it. But I will say this. They are much more interested in being the economic hegemon of the Middle East. The problem is that in order to do that, you really have to play all sides. It's not a black and white issue in terms of our allies in the Middle East. The alliances are shifting. And it's tough when you are representing a country where your leadership changes every 4 to 8 years. We're going to have a new president in 2 years. That means we are going to have a new foreign policy in the Middle East and with Turkey. So having said that, if you've got someone who is a little bit more skittish about creating a defensive alliance with Turkey, what are you going to do when you've given over a bunch of F-35s that, because of the missile defense system that Turkey procured from Russia, that Russian technology will be able to crack the code on our stealth F-35s, which are, last I checked, $1 billion a pop. We actually saw a few of them fly down the Hudson during the America 250 flyover, which was very impressive. Having said that, I think there are other planes and other systems that could be sold to Turkey if you want to have a military alliance that doesn't compromise national security, because although on one level, we do certainly need each other, needing someone and having an alliance out of convenience for a period of time is not the same thing as trust, and I do not trust them.
Harold, you've been thoughtful on this topic. We talked about it for about an hour before the show began.
We talked about it over the weekend as well. I think that Kennedy, the thing that concerns me, well, let me get to the positive. You're right. President Trump's gotten the Europeans, our NATO allies, to spend, wanting to spend a little over 2%, but they're getting close to it. And they realize that what the Russians did in Ukraine forced them to do it as well. But the president, I give him a lot of credit for it. Two, what he did with Maduro, I give him a lot of credit for. What he did on the border, I give him a lot of credit for. And Operation Midnight Hammer, I give him a lot of credit for.
And about to do with Cuba.
And hopefully we get done with Cuba. What I don't understand is to your point, we always have changes in an administration at least once every 8 years, whether it's the same party or another party, sometimes every 4 years. Our greatest ally, Israel, and we are in the middle of a conversation with them about what that relationship looks like, have said that if you sell them F-35s to Turkey, you will destroy the balance of power in the Middle East, I think is what Mr. Netanyahu said. I think you have to be mindful of that and have to talk to our NATO allies about that. Two, the president was wrong on Zelensky. I remember when he and the vice president blasted this poor guy in the Oval Office. Turned out that they were wrong. They said, your country, you're losing and you're going to be on the wrong end of this. They turned out to be wrong on that. We're winning in this thing. He's winning in this thing. I hope that what General Kane, who says so often in our own network here, give the Ukrainians the license to build the things they need to build, the military infrastructure they need to be able to battle against them. Three, we should have gone into Iran, I think, with our allies, but that's just me. The president said he didn't want to do that because he didn't want to tip his hand to what they were doing and what they were not doing. And we were wrong on Greenland. We should partner with Greenland because we need them. The president doing a little bit of a victory lap there, getting off the plane with he and Erdogan arm in arm was a little strange. But, you know, I hope I hope he has something else in mind that he wants to get done with them. I don't know what that could be. I mistrust the Turks because of what you said.
Remember, they got relations with Iran, Turkey.
They do. But at the same time, I would not have walked off arm in arm with them. We have allies in NATO as well. At the end of the day, finally, the president, I thought, spoke so eloquently on July 3rd and 4th about communists and socialism here in America, and particularly many in my party. It's amazing to me, though. He won't take that same fervor to the two worst communist leaders in the world. He coddles Putin and coddles Xi. If you can take on members of my party, Mr. President, and rightly so, who believe in socialism, take the ones on the global stage as well, because that's where it comes from.
If I had $1 for every time somebody said Ukraine's winning or Russia's winning, I wouldn't have to work here. The reason why this war keeps going on is because everybody keeps saying their side is winning. The only people that are winning are the rich, the people that are making money off that war. There's no shortage in news about this war, but nobody cares. Dana, we can't act like there's going to be a change in the administration in 2 years, but our allies and adversaries can. How do we get past that?
I think that President Trump should consider shifting his message to say that he saved NATO from itself, that he helped prevent future wars, because he has made them shore up their own defenses, make them realize that they might just have to defend themselves, that maybe they can't just rest on the United States. And so I think that as he rattles off things that he's accomplished, I think he could say that he saved them from themselves. You had Rutte, the General Secretary of NATO, in the Washington Post today, bending over backwards, saying, "Mr. President, no, we are here for you. We will." The president has a legitimate grievance about Iran, but they did come around, and he was able to also give them a warning about immigration and energy, those two important issues. President Trump wants Europe to survive and thrive. The big issue for NATO and the United States is how we deal with the other big kahuna, and that is China. So maybe we'll find out more about that tomorrow.
Kahuna is not Chinese, Dana.
What is it?
It's Hawaiian.
Hawaiian?
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.